been a while since we heard from Cliff Bleszinski. Back in the day, he was one of the creative forces behind Gears of War and Unreal. But now he's back with a brand new studio and a brand new game. So, is Lawbreakers worth it? Let's find out. There came a point 2 hours into my time with Lawbreakers where I had to stop playing. My eyes were burning and I needed to readjust my seat. And while I was certainly enjoying myself, my prolonged slouching and not blinking had put me into a familiar discomfort. And perhaps that's because Lawbreakers is a throwback to a bygone era of arena-style shooters, complete with tall ceilings, gory explosions, and an aggressive attitude. But Lawbreakers transcends its retro roots, folding in the current sensibilities and complexity of a modern-day hero shooter. Though its steep learning curve may discourage some, Lawbreakers is a brazenly fast and brutally fun time. While Lawbreakers does feature a sizable cast of playable characters and game modes, its selectable options are limited to one, simply titled Play. This does allow for a singular player base, providing fairly quick matchmaking, but the inability to influence match types or maps is disappointing. Fortunately, this is rarely an issue, due to the consistent quality of locations and objectives. The concepts themselves are straightforward. 2 teams of 5 face off in a series of competitions, centered around retrieving items or holding a portion of the map. Blitzball tasks players to collect and return a ball to an enemy base, and is easily the most fast-paced mode in the game. Uplink is similar in style, requiring a satellite dish to be placed at home base and protected while it slowly uploads its data. And Overcharge plays nearly identically, with a battery charging over time. However, if stolen by the enemy team, the progress carries over. Turf War highlights 3 portions of a map that must be taken over during a series of rounds, and the final mode, Occupy, randomizes the specific sections. At face value, this may appear monotonous, but these 3 modes play into the core design strengths by keeping players in motion and pushing them into direct conflict. There's little time to strategize, camping is nearly non-existent, and a team's momentum can be gained or lost in an instant. One especially smart idea is the inclusion of intermissions. Whenever a point is scored or an objective is dropped, a brief break in the action takes place, allowing both sides to regroup before the next round kicks off. Even during complete blowouts, these mid-match resets inspire competition. Lawbreakers' slight tweaks to its 2 match styles cleverly add variety while keeping the objectives simple. The real challenge comes from mastering the 9 separate characters, each of which feature unique factors such as health, speed, weapons, double jumps, and abilities. Initially, it can be frustrating switching from one class to the next, as the jarring differences demand players relearn mechanics to succeed. For instance, the Vanguard class carries a rapid-fire chain gun and jets through the air, while the Harrier class uses a laser beam and hovers above the ground. And though those may sound alike, their functionality gives them separate purposes. One pushes towards the goal with a spread shot, and the other gives support from above with precise attacks. Of course, there are more drastic examples. The dual-wielding gunslinger snipes from afar, while the frenetic Wraith slides into battle with an automatic pistol, and the powerful Titan blasts away opponents with an explosive rocket launcher. All require practice to utilize their advantages and objectives in battle, and the more time I spent with each of these characters, I was always surprised by their hidden depth and careful balance. With special sidearms and powerful super attacks attached to a cooldown timer, classes I had originally written off became favorites. There simply isn't a weak link in the roster. Which takes us back to the first point, the limited options. Without a proper tutorial, players are forced to learn each hero during a match. There are explanations for each ability, but these are more of an introduction than actual guidance. Attempting to learn the swinging and slashing mechanics of the assassin took me more than an hour, and while I did eventually get the hang of it, my training clearly left my team at a disadvantage. This method discourages experimentation and highlights just how valuable a practice mode would have been. On a side note, it's possible to blind fire behind while running. This is a very interesting idea, but the default controls map it to the D-pad, and as such, I never witnessed anyone attempting it. One of the more interesting concepts in Lawbreakers is its zero-gravity environments. Each of the maps is built in a symmetrical style. However, the center contains a gravitational field, allowing players to slowly glide through the air while engaging in firefights. These areas restrict movement and limit the use of close-range weapons. What's so fascinating about this system is it puts every class on an equal footing, adding an extra level of caution. In general, the maps are fair to all classes, with narrow hallways, choke points, open areas, and long gaps. Playing as the sluggish shotgun-wielding juggernaut taught me to appreciate corners and cover, and the assassin showed me the potential of tall buildings and windows. Replaying the same stage as new characters really shows off how tightly designed each area is. Now, if only the in-game universe was as well crafted. Despite my growing appreciation of the roster, the personalities themselves are abrasively bad. Each character shouts out declarative statements, swear words, and movie references, none of which communicate who these people are. In fact, there's two versions of each class, one for Law and one for Breakers. What that means or how it came to be, I don't really know, as the game never actually explains what this is all about, and what is here is frankly annoying. All of the footage seen here was captured at 1080p on the PlayStation 4 Pro. Outside of the odd hiccup, it consistently performs at a rock-solid 60 frames per second. The art style of Lawbreakers is for the most part generic, but from a gameplay standpoint, it presents the upcoming scenario. Even with the numerous unlockable cosmetics, I was always able to identify my opponents and allies, especially with the unique sound effects for each weapon. Even though the aesthetic choices don't inspire, they always convey important details. So, is it worth it? Yes. With simple objectives and complicated playstyles, Lawbreakers delivers a refreshingly dynamic multiplayer shooter. However, its greatest accomplishments are held back by the inability to practice outside of competition. But this irritating misstep can't take away from the thrilling combat and diverse classes. Lawbreakers isn't immediately accessible, but once discovered, it's hard to put down. Lawbreakers is currently available on the PlayStation 4 and PC for $30. If you've had a chance to play it, let me know what you thought. And if you haven't, let me know if you plan on picking it up. My name is Colin Tanner, and I'll see you in the next video.